Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Media Hub. I'm your host, Don D. Sanchez, and today we have the distinct pleasure of introducing Johnathan Perez. He's a talented media director of Faith Assembly Orlando. In our discussion today, we will delve into the various avenues within the world of video production that not only provide a fulfilling livelihood, but also play a key role in the ministry field. Johnathan will be sharing his profound insights into the multifaceted landscape of the media industry, offering his comprehensive understanding of his operations and his potential. So without further ado, let's meet Johnathan. Johnathan, how you doing?
Hey, all right, and you?
Good, good. Hey man, thank you for taking the time out, seriously. I know how busy you
Yeah,
are.
no worries. Glad to do
And
this.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. The reason I wanted to have you on is, you know, I've been going to that church since what, 94, and I've seen how much it's grown, and I've seen what you've done with it, and how much you've definitely scaled up the production value of it. And a lot of people don't know about how much the church ministry field does, or even just media ministry does in general, like what exactly goes into it, especially at bigger churches. I mean, it's a lot, and you're collaborating with a lot of different departments. So I would like if you could just give us a brief description, of how you got in the industry,
Yeah,
and your responsibilities at the church.
yeah. So I currently manage the AVL team, it's audio video lighting, the production side, and also the design side, which is graphic design, web design, communications, social media. I kind of came in on that side actually, with the graphic side. That's what I did for a long time in the publishing industry. But I always dabbled in tech stuff, especially being at church. So I kind of always had my hand in something musical or sound engineering or video stuff. So even at the publishing company, I did all the training videos, all the promotion videos, anything we did at a trade show. I was involved in the booth and the TVs and whatever signage and graphics we had on there. So that's kind of what I came into this church doing, was on the design side, and then I just fell right into the media role here. So we handle all the production for all the services, but also for the school as well. We have a school here, and then we have multiple campuses, and that's kind of what we handle as a team.
So just by everything you just mentioned and everything that you do, everything from social, web, video production, even dealing when we're talking about media, we're even talking about photography and all that. Putting all
hmm
that together, right?
hmm
It's like how many people are on your team?
There's seven of us full time. There's about another six of us part time, and then we have a ton of volunteers. I don't remember the number, but it's definitely in close to 50.
Wow, wow.
hmm
And how do the people that volunteer, right? Let's
hmm
talk about that a little bit. The people that volunteer, do they go through a process before you say, okay, you can start doing this, or working as a camera, or working in audio, or working on the board, working on lighting?
Yeah, we like to have them come in and kind of see where they would like to fit in. Sometimes they have an idea of what they want to do, and once they actually start doing it, they realize they want to do something else. So we kind of do that, kind of feel them out, and then help them develop their skills in that area.
So, Jonathan, what motivated you to pursue a career in the media ministry? Why not regular? Why not in the circular world? Why in ministry?
Yeah, so I actually come from a long background of family members that have been involved in ministry. My grandfather's a retired pastor for many years in New York. And it's just kind of a natural feel to merge those two things together. My passion was on the creative side, and the technical side just came easy to me. So it was natural for me to I kind of fell into it, honestly. And it's been awesome ever since. So.
So, can you explain to us? Like, I know you have a graphic design. So, what is your degree in, and did you have to go back
Yeah.
to school for the other stuff?
I did not finish my degree. I was in school for business, and I fell full time into the whole graphic side of things. Became a corporate employee at the publishing company, so I kind of left college early. But I did a lot of business classes, marketing, things like that. I feel like I've just continued to evolve in all those fields, and especially in the tech side, it evolves so much anyway. I don't know if a particular degree will get you at to the point where you need to be on a continual basis.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes
I,
sense, but yeah,
no, it does. It does make sense, especially because
yeah.
you working with people that do have degrees. I'm assuming. I'm assuming you tell
Hmm.
me the people that are full time and part time. Do they have degrees?
Some of them do, some of them don't. A lot of them come from the production world. Our comms director, like she has a master's. So like, there's a few people that have some degrees. Our video producer right now, he's actually he used to be an educator. He was a middle school teacher for a long time, but he has a natural ability and just amazing at video stuff. So he comes from that background, but it's a mixture of things for sure.
Yeah. So what do you look for, whether the staff employees or the volunteers? What do you look for in them in order to join
Yeah.
your team?
On the ministry side, like as far as an employee, there's two things that I look for. Number one is the ministry side of things. Do they have a heart for the church? Do they have a heart for the ministry? That's very important. And then secondarily is the technical side of it. Can they handle the job? Can they do this stuff? Can they grow fast? Can they learn new things? It's very important for me to have somebody go, hey, what do I do? Or, hey, what should I do in this situation? I rather them come and go, hey, this is what I was thinking. What do you think? So those are the two things I really look for: that having the ministry heart, but also having the technical ability. And on the volunteer side, it's mainly can you show up when you say show up, and are you teachable? And can you get along with people? That's one of the biggest things. Going from the secular world, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
to three, one of the pieces of advice that I got was, hey, it's going to be tough. Like, working with people is tough, and especially in ministry where there's a lot of feeling and emotion sometimes that kind of clouds some things. So that's what I kind of look for, is somebody that can handle, the tension essentially.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Let's talk about, because like you said that is the industry's always changing, right? Technology has
Hmm.
changed. When you first came into the church, right? How much have you added to the program of the in media? What, because man, I just remember just a few years back when we first started live streaming. I should say I go to the same church, but I remember it was a big deal just having live streaming. So how much have you
Yeah.
grown? How much has it scaled since you joined?
I would say a lot. I mean, I came in right before we moved into our current main campus location. So there was a lot of evaluating of what was going on already, and then we knew that we were on just right around the corner from getting into this new building, so I couldn't change too much at our old location. But we've pretty much changed everything in the way we do, and we've evolved tremendously. I mean, in our camera, in our gear, and the way we connect, and then just now in the last 18 to 24 months, the fact that AV is going so much over IP now, we're looking at that as our next front, and we've changed out things that people don't even know we changed out. Our core infrastructure, for instance, in some of our rooms, has gone over to QSys. So like in the atrium, everyone can control things from an iPad now, and there's presets and schedules that automatically go. You can walk into our chapel now, and it's essentially the same hardware on the visible side of things, but in the background, you can walk in, you can turn on everything from an iPad, you can change colors on the walls and everything. So it's pretty neat. A lot of infrastructure there.
Yeah, I think every part of our industry is like, everybody almost has to have some sort of IT background somehow, or you're just
Absolutely.
going to get lost. And I'm one of those people getting lost because it's a lot. It is a
Yeah.
lot, even to do a regular or easy, a video wireless transmitter. Everything you need to know about IP and or being an IT guy, you have to have some sort of knowledge of it, even with lighting and everything. So
Yeah.
it's very, very. Now, do you implement that, or do you have a team that implements that and you just work with it?
So we have our team here that's obviously the technical support behind everything we do, but we also work with an integrator, and that's key. I think a lot of churches miss that step. They don't partner with a company that does this day in and day out as far as implementing new technology. So I think partnering with a company like that and then hearing from them as what's new, what should we do, what's a possible solution, or here's what we did at this church yesterday, or here's what we did last month, or here's what's coming. Having that relationship is very vital, I think, to like knowing coming up next and learning how to fix things quickly and not having to waste too much time, trying to learn it myself and going, hey, what do we do in this situation? And if they don't know, then they can ask another church or another tech or another company and go, hey, what do you guys do? And having that relationship there is like, it's so vital. There's been so many times on a Sunday morning where I'll call and they will pick up the phone. And we've had an instance where a console went down and one of the guys literally drove over his robe with a spare network switch and fixed a problem before service ever started. No one ever knew that happened. It's just one of those things that was amazing about having an integrator that helps us out like that.
So, Johnathan, explain to us, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in the media field now?
Yeah, I think one of the key ways we do that is having an integrator. We work with an integrator to do a lot of the planning and seeing what's new out there. And then a lot of our guys internally will implement some of that stuff. But for the most part, we're asking questions. If there's a difficult situation or we need a solution to a certain problem, we're going to the integrator. And I think that's vital to any church. They should always partner with an integrator.
Now, do they bring you the new technology, or is it you doing the research? Say, hey, I'd like to implement this. Can you help us?
It's a little bit of both. A lot of times it's here's the problem. What do you guys suggest to solve it? Sometimes it's, hey, I saw this piece of gear. What do you think? And sometimes it's them saying, hey, have you thought about doing this? Here's a new piece of gear. Would you guys be interested in demoing it? Which is really neat to have that relationship with them.
That's good. And I want to, it's not putting you on the spot, but I know like all the things you guys have to do throughout the week because you have every ministry that's there that needs some sort of video, graphic, some sort of intro that they need to. So between setting up shoots, between setting up interviews, between getting the feeds out on Sunday, between maybe some of the like the pastors might need. How do you collaborate with everybody to get this done? Because just go through so people could know how much a church this size does throughout the whole week. Just go briefly through the whole week on what has to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Tuesdays is our first day back. We have Mondays off. It's a little non-traditional, but because of Sundays, we have Mondays off. And then Tuesdays is primarily meetings. We're meeting as a directional leadership team. Then we have sometimes office staff monthly. We do that with all the office staff. And then there's service planning after that. And then we have our department meetings on Wednesdays where everyone's kind of meeting with their group and saying, okay, is there anything we can do? We're coming up with task lists during that time. We're pre-planning events, looking at calendars. As of right now, as of a month ago, we already planned out next year completely on the calendar. All the events are there. All the buffer times are there in between. So we're constantly thinking about what's coming up next. And then there's a lot of individual meetings that we call topical meetings. And if there's something that's a little bit longer that we need to dive deep into, like we have an event called Awaken coming up. And tomorrow we have our topical meeting on that, which we'll talk through all the details, logistics, creative, everything, and kind of plan out and schedule when we're going to do those things to maximize the time.
So, and that's just going through meetings, but then how do you start implementing all the requests that come in? Because you said, we're a year out, but let's say we're a year out, but we have an event coming in, or even something as simple as advertising. I'm just going to throw Fall Festival because that's what's coming up right now, right?
Yeah.
But and then if you say you have a men's event coming up, and then a women's event coming up, then you have a youth event coming up. Like all these departments need advertising. They all need video.
Correct.
They all need. So how do you deal with the staffing positions for services and events?
Yeah, so there's a few key positions that we have as paid positions, or people that we trust to kind of operate things during the week, prep things, And then most of like the camera ops and any kind of grips for certain things, we those are volunteer positions. There are some people that end up having some industry background, and then we end up putting them in as a volunteer to run something more high end. But for the primary positions are all paid.
Yeah, I want to ask about this a little bit more about the technical positions because you use camera ops, audio, lighting, graphics. You have a live switch during
Mhm.
for the services, right? And then you have a web streaming, or you just take the feed of the program switch to the live feed. How is that done?
Yeah. So yeah, on our switching side, we have a 2ME switcher that has a ton of auxes. So a lot of times when you're in the room, you're not necessarily seeing the line cut of the ME that's going out. But the operators on that side, there's actually two that are volunteers, and they're very well versed on the switcher. They know which buttons to push, which combination of things to do. But we're doing a lot of things. There's actually we also stream out as a to the deaf community. We have a camera feed on our deaf interpreter. We also have a secondary audio that you can actually watch the service live, but actually hear the Spanish translation of it. And that's all happening through MEs and multi-channel audio over SDI. And then on the hardware side of things, going out of the room, connecting to our campuses, we're using a system called Resi. It allows us to give in and out points from this location, and they just pick up where we set the in and out points on their side. We also de-embed the secondary audio for Spanish at the campuses, and then they can also hear the Spanish translation if they have a device there. Our mainstream goes out over an AWS Elemental live encoder, and that's going up to Boxcast, Facebook, YouTube. So there's a lot of things going on at the same time.
Yeah. How do you now I'm just asking for myself. I'm gonna be honest with you. How the box cast? What'd you think of it? How'd you like it?
Boxcast is okay. We were with Stream Monkey, and they were acquired by Boxcast.
Hmm.
So we're choosing the software side of it, but we're encoding through our AWS Elemental, and then we're going straight up to them. The quality seems great. We have no issue. We haven't had any issue since the acquisition, which we're really thankful for. It's been solid. Yeah.
Wow. And just so the viewers know, let's just go through every department. You could just tell me like what they're using. I know you already did for some, but
Yeah.
let's talk about. We'll start in audio. What audio board are you guys using?
Yeah, so we're still on an old platform for our main console. It's an Avid Venue. It's a D show. We're looking at a few different options. We've demoed a few things over the last few months. We're trying to figure out what's next. On the broadcast audio side, I'm actually in that room right now. We're actually running everything through Maddie up to broadcast, and it's on Pro Tools, the latest version of Pro Tools. And then as far as video cams, we're still on Hitachi broadcast cameras that we implemented a while back. That's all going to a 4A switcher. It's a HVS 490. On the software side for graphics and whatnot, we're using a pretty standard for churches. It's called ProPresenter from Renewed Vision. We have two instances of that, kind of one that drives our main LED wall, and then one that's doing our lower third, video playback, things like that. And then on the graphic side, all of our designers work in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Lightroom for the photo side. On the editing side, our guys are primarily in Final Cut and After Effects. We have one editor that prefers Premiere, and that's perfectly fine. He edits in that, and he's more comfortable in that. So, which as long as we get the product out, we're pretty
Right.
happy.
Right. And I'm sorry. Did you say lighting?
I'm sorry. On the lighting side, we're actually
Yeah.
using still an old platform, but it's Vista. Chroma Q recently acquired the software, but we're still using the old hardware from Jans. We're looking at options to upgrade that in the future, and what would be next once we come to end the life on this system.
Okay. And who comes up with the overall look? Because you said in the beginning, I look
Hmm.
first on the person that they're lined up with the ministry because that's first,
Hmm.
right? So the
Yep.
the the product that you're doing, that you're putting together, has to match the ministry, right? So who
Yeah.
comes up with the overall look of everything? I'm talking about
Yeah.
from the staging aspect to the audio video of everything, the way it looks and the way it's cut, the way it's the music, everything. Who does that?
Yeah, we've given a lot of these guys their little bit of freedom as to what they will initially come up with, and then in our meetings, our department meetings, we kind of scrutinize what's going on. So, like for instance, we just did a merch drop for the church, and that all those designs came into our design meeting, and that's where our video editors in there, our service producers in there, our communications directors in there, our graphic designers in there, and we all have enough freedom and trust with each other to kind of scrutinize this thing and go, hey, this is not really aligning with our brand. Can we modify this? Hey, I think this is cool. If this was an overall design change across the whole organization, let's go that way. And we all kind of speak freely into that. So I really value that as like a team thing where we kind of all check each other and go, hey, that's kind of really rubbing hard against the brand or how we look on stage, or that stage design wouldn't match with how service flows, or it's going to be a hindrance for being flexible. We do a lot of events in this room besides church. We just rented out the facility last week to another organization. We do a lot of graduations in here. So how would that stage design impact how we bring people in and out? Like those kind of conversations happen on the regular. So
How
it's
much
pretty
of
cool.
it how much of it is goes through approval through the head pastor?
Not much.
Really?
Honestly, yeah, he's pretty great about um, letting us decide what's the best situation, and if something does go awry, we're really quick to go, hey, we made this decision. It wasn't the greatest. Here's what's happening. Or he'll come to me and go, hey, I saw this thing, and we're really happy with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the biggest
That's
things we've been doing.
that's a hurdle
Hmm.
that's been overcome, because to have that
Yeah,
trust alone is a lot. You know,
yeah,
I
big time.
remember where everything had to get approved before you touch that screen. You know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
that's an accomplishment that you should be very proud of, you've made that trust there with the head pastor of the whole look of the whole thing, because you transmit to how many people? Do you know how many countries and everything watch the service?
I don't know how many countries, but it's all over the world. It's
Yeah.
usually around 2 to 3 thousand, depending on the week, watching online live, and then after that, the archive. There's thousands watching that as well. We're on TV as well, so it's nice.
Are statistics and analytics a big thing for you, for the media ministry
Uh,
or the church?
Not really. We use them as tools to go, should we do this again, or should we
Okay.
put some more emphasis into this? We've been recently looking at when people are watching to know if we should be continuing to do. We started doing a pre-service kind of role where there's like a host kind of welcoming people to the online, and we're just kind of evaluating people really connected at that point. Are people
Yeah.
really engaged in the comments? Because if not, then we're going to pivot and use our resources for something else. So that's the only reason why we analytics and go, okay, if this is working, then we want to do more of that. If this is not working, let's not put any effort into that.
No, of course, yeah. Especially with all the work that goes into it, you definitely want to have a good return on it. As far as like your viewership and things that are how many people. If you're doing it for like 5 people, it's definitely not worth it. No, that's good.
Absolutely.
You guys have a lot of content that you generate, right? I want to talk about
Hmm.
storing it and what do you do with
Yeah.
it. Like, so how do you manage and organize the amount of media content that's generated?
So we primarily use a QNAP NAS, and we have actually multiple ones of those. And we're about to actually implement a system where we're dropping at each of our other campuses as backups, offsite backups. But that's primarily it. I know there's one NAS that's like 98 terabytes, and the other one's like 80 terabytes. So that's the primary way we do things. We kind of organize everything by year, and then kind of department, and then date, and then we kind of filter out all that stuff out that way. And that's primarily for video and a lot of our Pro Tools stuff, but everyone has access to that. The other thing we use primarily on the graphic side is actually Google Drive. We use the Teams folder option because we use them as an organization to do our email and everything else. So we have what's called team drives. And team drives are really handy. There's an application that sits on the computer, and you kind of navigate through Finder like you would any other thing in Finder
Really?
on the Mac. Yeah, and we really like that. It's not the greatest for video playback and stuff. That's why we use the QNAP for that. But as far as graphics and even exported videos to the campuses, they have a folder in there. They go right to service media. They have the date there, open stuff, and then they drag everything, make everything local at that point, and then playback happens locally. But that's our main transport of everything is
Wow.
Google Drive. Yeah.
So, Jonathan, what advice would you give to someone who would like to be in the media ministry?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of it. Um, Number one is try to keep up with the technology, not just for technology's sake, but to solve problems. Like, what's the best way we can communicate this? What's the best way we can show this? Um, Things like, learning about iMag. If the room is too big for a situation where no one can connect with the person on stage, things like that. It's just you're trying to find technology that solves a problem. And then secondarily, I would say is, especially on the tech side, try to be a people person. It's really hard for us tech guys to get personable and have conversations. Sometimes not come off, a little grumpy sometimes. But try and get there. Having meetings and talking through things and connecting with people really help. And I'm still working on that tremendously all the time. But yeah, I would say those two things for sure.
All right. What should they expect working in the media ministry?
It's not easy. That's what I would say. I still do a lot of freelance. I say a lot, not as much as I used to. I still do some freelance outside. And the big thing that people typically say they're impressed with is that my ability to roll with the punches, and that's because of church. So working in a church is sometimes you have to pivot real quick. There's people bringing you a drive in the middle of a song, and you're having to copy stuff over, or you're having to change everything you've pre-planned for on the fly because somebody didn't show up, or you have to shoot a testimony video an hour before it's supposed to play sometimes, and that's happened on occasion. It's not ideal and it's not the greatest situation, but you have to learn how to be flexible and just know going into it that's what's going to be expected of you. It's not going to be perfect, but we have to go as fast as we can sometimes.
That's all great information, Jonathan. But what about do they need to be or have faith in order to work in media ministry?
There's a lot of stories that I hear that people just start off on the tech side, and then they either get saved working on the tech side, or they'll start getting actually involved in church. That hasn't happened too much on our side, but it does happen for sure. I would say that it's great to keep you grounded to come in with that. I think if some people are looking just to do a job and check off a list, and say, yeah, I work as a tech, I would say ministry stuff is probably not for you. There's definitely the heart component to it. And the guys that last the longest kind of realize that at some point and go, okay, I need to be involved in the church and be a part of the church, not just work at the church.
Yeah. No, I think that's because I asked that because I think it's important. In my opinion, I don't even really work in the ministry field, but I do think that that's a very, very connecting component that you need to have. You just draw to it. And I think you would work better because of that. You know what I mean? You're doing it for a different cause.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you came from corporate and you worked in the ministry field now, right? For how long you been in the ministry field now?
I've been here for 13 years now.
Wow, man, that
Yeah.
for me, I'm answering this for you. It flew by for me, and you're the one
Absolutely.
doing the job. But
Yeah.
man, that's a long time. I can't
It's a
believe you've
very
been there
long
that
time.
long already.
It's unusual too in the industry to be at a church for for as long as I have.
Yeah, because
So
I guess it's just hitting me that you started out in Goldenrod before we went to the. Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Um, so having the two worlds, right? Working in the two worlds, right? As far as
yeah,
corporate and ministry, because they're two different things. You're coming from corporate. I want you to
absolutely.
explain the difference so people will know. Like if you're coming from a corporate
Yeah.
background, you're working in ministry. There's a difference, and you have to know what that is. Can you explain that?
Yeah, a lot of it is purpose. There's a bottom line when it comes to corporate. Not to say that there's not a bottom line in ministry, but it's not the be all say all of everything. So knowing the heart behind everything really changes your motivation. It allows you to work longer hours. Allows you to be more flexible. And then as far as like correction and things like that. Sometimes people expect the church to be on this whole thing of like everyone's just angels around here and whatnot. So that a lot of
Right.
times I have to weed through the fluff sometimes because they're trying not to offend you and say they don't
Right.
like the graphic or they don't like the video, and it's like, on the corporate side it's like, hey, I don't like it, you need to change it. On the church side is sometimes there's a little bit of fluff and you kind of have to weed through that, and that comes with time. The only thing I can
Right.
say is like building relationships and going, hey, are you comfortable with me enough so that I can say what I need to say about this design and not feel offended or not take it personal? One of
Right.
the things is like, one of the things I tell the team all the time is to make it personal as far as putting your full effort into something, but don't take it
Mhm.
personal when somebody asks for a change or they don't like the direction it's going.
Yeah, no, that's all good advice. I know exactly what you're talking about because, especially going through the fluff, because people have to realize everybody isn't perfect in the church. But the thing is, we have to blame ourselves for that because a lot of people portray that. They want the whole holier than thou. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah,
listen, everybody found something. They found God at the church, and that's why we're there, was because we weren't perfect or we weren't, we
exactly.
had to fix ourselves.
Yeah,
And we have to get that message across more, in my opinion, for it. So
yeah,
I totally
yeah.
understand that. Are there any specific steps or experiences you would recommend that people should pursue to work in that
Yeah,
field?
if to work in the field for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Believe it or not, a lot of it's teamwork stuff. It's trying to figure out how to work with people better. That's number one. On the tech side of things, it's try to keep up with things. Like, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, a lot of free online stuff. Kind of get into that a little bit more and learn the technical side of things. Especially in the video world, this. I'm sure. Aligning frame rates and resolutions is a
Yes.
problem.
Right.
It's horrible. And then you hook it up one way and it didn't work, and you hook it up the same way and it works again. So just kind of having that thing of how to troubleshoot something is a major thing I'm always trying to teach, especially our new guys. It's like, well, where's the signal coming from, and where is it going, and what resolution is it expecting, and what kind of audio is it getting, and is it getting de-embedded somewhere, and is the IP address the same on both devices if we're trying to talk to two things on the network. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is just basic troubleshooting stuff, but it's like, okay, break it down, start on step one, then go to step two and go through it. I love it when guys come and they go, hey, I did this and that, and it's still not working. For me, it feels like, okay, they at least tried a certain step, and it's usually something dumb, like on a decimator, the input wasn't set right or the output resolution wasn't set right. So things like that, like it's just problem solving and trying to figure out what to do in those scenarios.
No, yeah, that's great. You're saying that, and I'm thinking of gear that we have that is just like, yeah, just turn it on and off again, and it'll work. For some reason, it
Mm-hmm.
just starts to work. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
but knowing troubleshooting on the fly is the most important thing, which is going to bring me to my next thing. So for me, like I honed my skills in corporate meetings and live events, right?
Yeah.
But would you say like working in church in ministry and being a volunteer is a great way to get a good foundation and start honing your skills at what you want to do?
Absolutely. I tell especially new volunteers all the time, there's moments where we have rehearsals and whatnot to play, to mess up, We kind of have a little bit lower expectation in our midweek service, so they can mess up live, and that's okay. Whereas in the corporate world, there's not very many moments for that. So on the church side, if you want to volunteer at your church, it's a great way to like play with something. I always tell people they can't break it. I could always reboot it, restart it, recall the show file if they go too far, and then we're just back to where we were beforehand. So there's not much they can do to damage the equipment, to a certain extent, but so they can kind of play and kind of mess around. I think it's a great learning environment.
Yeah, very good. All right, so tell the people what is your average work week as far as hours? How many hours do you put in? For somebody that's looking to work in your role, right? Be honest and how many hours do you work in 1 week?
For sure, it's a feeling of always being on, but that comes as a passion more than anything. I know there's some guys that can turn it off, but I'm constantly thinking about, man, what could we do in this scenario, or how could we have resolved that issue better? So it's kind of an always on thing. I kind of work around 50 hours a week. That's pretty typical for me. More choice than anything. I'm blessed with the leadership that they're constantly telling me to take time off. And a lot of times for me, it's more therapeutic to come in and have something done beforehand than it is for me to wait for it. Or kind of work sometimes when my team's not working. So I can kind of pre-plan some things and look at the calendar and go, hey, this is coming up, and just kind of have a good sense of space personally, like in my office before we start going into meetings. But about 50 hours is pretty typical for a tech. Depending on projects, obviously the flexibility in being able to work long hours for Easter and Christmas and any of the bigger holidays, it's one of those things that we kind of say it's volunteer time. A lot of guys do get paid extra for that stuff. But some of us just do it because we love doing it, and we're part of the church, and we're going to be there already with our family, like fall festival and things like that.
Yeah, actually, you just brought up another question for me, because you do have to think about it. I mean, you're there. It's like working in TV. Like, there's always something on Thanksgiving. There's always something on Christmas. But for the church, you always have to do services for Christmas, Easter, New Year's, and all the in-betweens. And so you have to be there. How do you balance that then? Tell me, because you have to be there for those.
Yeah.
Right? Explain that, right?
Yeah.
And then after you do that, I want you to talk about how you balance your home work life as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a challenge for years to kind of balance that. I've been blessed with a great wife that's very understanding, and she's come a long way with it too. And it's just kind of making it more of a family thing sometimes. There's times where I need to come in on a Saturday and reset some stuff, and I will literally just bring the kids with me, and they kind of hang out and they help me out sometimes. And so kind of working that out. And then just as far as like the holidays and things like that, we always have had like a rhythm of like knowing we have to be here for a certain time. So sometimes I'm here for a service knowing that I'm going to leave at a certain time, and there's a bunch of people at my house from my family having a Christmas party, for say. Just knowing that that's going to happen, and everyone understanding that is very helpful, but also taking out some time when I can. It's going, hey, I'm going to be here this day, so I'm going to flex this day. Or knowing we're going to have Christmas if Christmas lands on a Sunday, I know I have to wake up extra early, open the presents with the kids, and then come to church. And just know that, and just kind of balance things out. Same thing with birthdays and things like that. Sometimes we're not celebrating on that day. We're celebrating, at a hotel, for instance, because I'm having to be doing an event that's at a hotel, and everyone will come and gather, and we'll cut a cake or whatnot. So just kind of having that flexibility, I think, is the biggest thing to go, okay, I need to balance it. How do I do that? And then to be vocal about it, to go, hey, one of the things we've been doing around here is kind of like building in flexible times before and after big events or big seasons. So it's going to my leadership and going, hey, man, October's really, really slammed. What can we do to kind of help with that? Because I feel like my guys are getting burned out, or I'm getting burned out, or I can feel it in the air. So it's building in, like next year we have a ton of built-in times where we go, okay, no facility rentals, no events can happen the week before Easter prep or whatever. And just having that side of it. And that's been major help, just having the leadership behind us and going, yeah, rest is the thing that you need to do.
Wow, good. I didn't even think you did that much, but it does help having your wife, there being so flexible and understanding. I know Alex, she's great. She's a great woman, and but to deal with all that, I want people to realize, like, if this is something you're pursuing, know what you're getting into first, because this is probably at every church. This is not just our church. That's
correct.
Every church. That's just ministry in general on how it works.
Absolutely.
I would like for you to end on explaining people, why is working in media ministry so gratifying for you?
Yeah, at the end of the day, all the technical stuff is cool and playing with the gear is cool, but when you see people's lives change, there's nothing like it. There's those moments where you see a baptism live on the screen and that person has gone through a rough time, and you see their smile on their face, and we were able to capture it and display it on the screens. And those moments are what gives us the reason and the energy and the fuel to keep going. It's like, okay, why do we do that? Well, that's why we do that. When somebody's in worship and there's tears coming down their cheek, we know that they're having that moment because we've set up a distraction-free environment for them to worship in, and those are the moments that we live for.
So cool, man. Well, I thank you for your time, seriously, and I thank you for all your great input. And I know the viewers will enjoy everything you have to tell them. You really gave them a good sense of what it takes to work in the media industry. So, again, thank you. And I know you have a lot to do, but we definitely got to hook back up and hopefully have you on again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
Johnathan gave us some really good insights about working in the media ministry. A couple of things he pointed out was to stay up to date with technology. Watch tutorials to help further your knowledge. Be able to solve problems quickly and roll with the punches to be able to pivot directions with any last-minute request. And most of all, he said, be a people person. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Media Hub. Until next time, I'm your host, Don D. Sanchez.